Hey everyone, my name is Poisonblade and I hope all of you are doing well today. So for today I'm going to be building a Koala and Echidna house. Now there are no Echidnas in Planet Zoo or in the Australia pack, so this is not like a mystery animal reveal or something like that. So the habitat that I'm going to build for the Echidnas is going to be an implied habitat. There's no actual animals in there, but there are going to be actual koalas in this build. So with that being said, let's get straight into today's build. So I'm not going to lie, that intro took probably around 10 times to get right because I couldn't pronounce Echidna for some reason. But anyway, so the main inspiration for the Koala and Echidna house was the Arch West building from, if I'm correct, the University of Melbourne. And the main points that I took from this building is the facade, basically. You see me... Well, this is a version of that facade, because in the actual building I think it's like metal sheets that are made in such a way that there's like the outlines of people in the facade, and I took that idea and wanted to put koalas on the facade, because by this point actually I did not for sure know if I wanted echidnas or wombats, because, well, let's just say I wanted wombats until I found out how large their habitat would need to be, which I think was like 24 acres, which, yeah, that's too large. So it became quickly clear that I needed echidnas. So yeah, the habitat was first built for wombats, but that was too large. But anyway, so what I did for the facade was basically, as you can see, I made a sort of figure of a koala and then replaced all the beams, because I tried to, well, not completely copy the Arch West building, but just get inspired by it. So I copied the idea, but then instead of metal sheets, I did it with the beams that we got in the Australia pack. And then I basically just outlined a koala, or just made a figure of like a koala outline, and then made sure that the beams were touching the figure but were not going over the figure. Also, yes, I do realize that it kind of looks like Mickey Mouse. Like, you know, you have these like references in all like the Disney movies where there's like hidden Mickeys or something. Kind of looks like that as well. But then what I did is I removed that figure and then filled up the void that was then left with the smaller beams. And so in the end you still have the outlines of the koalas, because I didn't put wombats or echidnas, because by this point I wasn't even well, actually by this point I did not even think about placing a implied habitat in there. It was, by this point I actually wanted the koala habitat to be the entire building, but then I figured out, alright, that's going to be way too large. But I'm really happy that I found the Arch West building from the, again, University of Melbourne. The reason why I wanted the Arch West building and not, let's say, the Sydney Opera House is because the Sydney Opera House is basically like, it's the build that you would expect. Like with the Australia pack, the first building that usually comes to mind when you think of Australia is the Sydney Opera House. So I never want to build the expected building or the expected build, so I always look for like something different. And this is in no way like shade or shaming anyone who is building the Sydney Opera House. It's just not what I want to build. So yeah, if anyone has built the Sydney Opera House, kudos to you, because also it was a little bit scary to like think of like the Sydney Opera House, because I don't really build around buildings that well. Like I think the extent of round buildings for me is like a tower. And also, yes, I tried to, you know, as I said, it looks a little bit like Mickey Mouse, so I tried to incorporate like the koala's nose in there. Then I realized, yeah, that's just going to look weird. Because what I really like about the Arch West facade and about the facade that I'm building is that it's not too in your face. Like there is detailing that you will see, but it's not too much. And also, yes, again, like it looks like Mickey Mouse because of the ears, so I tried to get away from that, but then in the end I just embraced the Mickey Mouse. So it might also be the Mickey Mouse building. But anyways, with the facade, I basically, as I said, I built koalas, but I also built like branches and leaves to kind of not make it that it's just all koalas. So that is also just nature. And yeah, I think it would be a little bit too much if it was just koalas. But here also comes the thing, because besides not wanting to build the like expected build, there's also, of course, this is probably boring YouTube stuff for you guys, but so if anyone is like really interested in the speed build, this is probably going to be a bit boring. But here also comes the thing when it comes to like making videos of speed builds. You always want to build something that either hasn't been built before or you want to build something better. So what I first thought was like, oh yeah, I'm going to build a house for the koalas because the koalas don't need that much of space. So probably most people are going to build like just a small habitat for them. Yeah, and then it was just koala house after koala house after koala house that I saw appear when I was like halfway through the building. Like I know for sure that 8-Bit Josh made a koala house, Rudy made a koala house, I think the lay designer made a koala house, so yeah, I thought I had an original idea, but no I didn't. But at least I can say my koala house I think is the biggest. In real life, size doesn't matter, guys, but in Planet Zoo it does, so build large buildings. I'm joking around, but yeah, I do think that my koala house is the largest so far, but then it also houses an echidna habitat, which again was built for, I wanted echidnas and I actually wanted wombats, because I just wanted smaller animals. Like I'm really happy with the koalas because most animals that we have in game are large. Like they're not the animals that like fill up like a corner or something. In most zoos you have like, of course, the main animals such as tigers, lions and such, but you also have like the smaller animals that you won't come to the zoo for especially, but you kind of, when you walk to the tiger habitat, you kind of like, stop at like the other habitat or beavers. Yeah, I can't let beavers go, but I don't think we will get those very soon because, well, I just don't think that we will get like any real changes to gameplay soon. Like I think, especially not by the end of this year, that we will get like new gameplay, and the beavers will need like a, well, they're just their entire habitat is going to need probably some gameplay changes because how they like build their dams and such. Like unless we are going to get like, well, like I want to build my own dams, but I also want to see if like Frontier could make it so that the beavers would build their own dam and we just give them like branches and such. Kind of the same way as they did beavers in Zoo Tycoon 2, I think, where you would just give them branches, you would make a space filled with water, or I think lower water because the deep water wasn't good for them, and then you would they would build a house or dam from those branches. Also, yeah, right now I'm building by this point it was still a wombat habitat, but later on I found out that it's also still suitable for echidnas. But yeah, the wombats just needed a very large habitat, or, well, not very large, but larger than this. And echidnas don't really need that large of habitat, they just need sort of like a forest floor. Like they need leaves, they need just some kind of shelter, and they actually, according to some sites, echidnas sometimes, and I think I've been saying echidna wrong again because I say echidna and then Google says I should say echidna or echidna. Don't know. I'm just going to say echidna because it sounds nice in my ears. Yeah, they just need a forest floor and they sometimes actually stay in wombats. I want to say dungeons. That would be cool. Wombats building an entire dungeon. But no, wombat burrows. So maybe this was once a wombat habitat, then they realized that as like a zoo that this wasn't large enough to be like good for wombats, and so they replaced the wombats with an animal that's needed like a smaller habitat, such as an echidna, and then they sort of kept the wombat burrow because echidnas sometimes sleep or live in wombat burrows. Although I'm not sure if the wombats actually are happy with echidnas in their burrow. That wasn't pointed out to me. Or at least I didn't read it or found anything of like, are the echidnas intruders or just friendly guests? But anyway, going back on like the YouTube tangent that I went on before. So, as I said, well, I thought I had an original idea and then it wasn't, which kind of puts stress on, well, me because I want to, well, make something new and not something that people have done before. But again, my koala house, I think, is the biggest. So, yeah. But then the other thing is, well, this is just an ongoing thought process that I always have. So again, if you're here just for the Speedbuild, this is going to be boring talk for you. But for anyone who's, just here sitting around, just, hearing me ramble, this might be fun to hear. Well, fun, or just give you some insight. But here's the thing that I always sort of have in the back of my mind, and I'm not sure if I should worry about this, but I also have sort of accepted it in a way. But I'm always worried if I'm like uploading too little or not frequent enough, because this is just the inside in YouTube, but YouTube likes it when you upload more. But then I've sort of settled into like the 2 uploads a week. This week it was 3 because of the Australia pack, of course. But I wanted originally to have 4 videos out, and then I realized, yeah, that's not going to really work because, well, for me, it's like if I make more videos, then the quality of the builds is going to decrease because I'm going to basically have to push them out faster. That kind of sounds like I'm giving birth. I don't know why I said it like that. But then I'm also thinking like, all right, if I make more videos, then first of all, I have already done that once where I basically put out a video almost every day when the Plansu beta was out. Then I pushed out a video every day. Again, why do I say pushed out? But yeah, back then it was of course being on a time crunch because I think we only had the Plansu beta for like 2 weeks. So yes, for anyone who has watched Façade and is amazed by how it was built or anything, it was also built in 2 weeks. Like the entire zoo was built in 2 weeks with actually on franchise mode, so I had to worry about getting enough money. So yeah, let's just say I went into a little bit of not dark spot, but I immediately got like the flu after I was done with that. I was tired for a full month. No, not a month, I'm being dramatic. For like a week I was like a little bit woozy. So yeah, YouTube is probably going to like it when I upload more, but then I know that my brain isn't going to like it when I upload more. So yeah, before anyone is like commenting like, are you okay or something, I am. I've like fully settled in that like 2 videos a week is my max, and that streaming, like that doesn't take any energy out of me. So yeah, this might be like a block of the streams, but I hope to be streaming again every Tuesday and Friday on the purple channel, because YouTube doesn't like it when you point people towards other sites. But yes, I don't know again if I should at all worry about like how much do I upload, because well, this is how I have seen you guys so far, but all of you guys are like incredibly supportive and incredibly friendly. So yeah, it's just probably something that's going to be on the back of my mind every time I upload, or basically every time, everywhere. Yeah, let's just say as videos progress, I sometimes lose the plot. But that's the fun of like making these videos completely unscripted, because I have no idea where I'm going to go with like the commentary, and you guys don't know, and I just really enjoy that. Just seeing where my brain takes me. So yeah, now I'm building the walkthrough area for the koala habitat. So it's having that viewing gallery on the inside of the building, but then on the outside to the back of the building, there's also a walkthrough area without any of the habitat gates. Like usually when you have like a walkthrough area for animals, you need to like use that gate. I despise that gate because it's really heavily themed to like a safari, which I usually don't build. So the other way to make a walkthrough habitat without needing that gate is to make sure that, well, the animals can't escape. Because as long as there's a path through a habitat, the guest will go through it. The gate actually doesn't really do much besides making sure that the animal can't escape. So if you find another way to make sure that the animal can't escape, then you are free to build a walkthrough habitat through any animal's habitat that is of course allowed to be a walkthrough habitat. Don't start building walkthrough habitat for tigers or lions because yeah. So what I do is basically I make sure that there's one entrance to the walkthrough habitat, and then I make sure that it's not walkable for the animals. And this was actually a tip, again, this is sort of a plug to the streams, but this was a tip given to me when I was streaming, which was a month ago by this point almost. But the elephant grass that we have in game, if you turn it around, or basically put it so that it goes into the ground instead of off the ground, and then place it just below the ground so that you can't really see it, but the unwalkable terrain that it provides makes it so that the animals can't actually walk over it, even though you can't really see it. So the actual like iron beams, like I wanted to kind of give that vibe of like, you know, those sort of rail-like things that you sometimes have in like safari parks, so that the animals don't walk across it because they don't like to walk across those things. That actually doesn't do anything to deter the koalas from running out. I tried that. What actually makes it so that the koalas can't walk out is that elephant grass that's just below the surface. Although for this habitat I made it peek out a little bit because I just thought like, alright, this is an area that's not easily going to be cleaned, so there's probably some like grass popping through the rails. So yeah, the rails doesn't do anything. That's like the koalas can walk straight over that. They did that actually before I put in the, well, elephant grass, and then after I put in the elephant grass I also tested it, and the guests have no like hesitation to go into the walkthrough habitat, and the animals can't escape, and I don't have to worry about those. Well, they're not ugly gates, but they are just so heavily themed, in my mind at least, that I didn't want to use them. And yeah, I really just like it when there's like walkthrough habitats, but you don't really have like those obvious gates. So at first I actually wanted to put in a gate with like those sort of plastic or rubber, like, I don't know, sheets, I'm just going to call it. But then I thought, yeah, I don't want anything like this. Is going to be like a forest because there's going to be those eucalyptus trees, which I already said again in a stream. Those trees are huge. So generally I don't think I'm going to use them that much because they are just so huge. Like there's one tree out of the 3 of them that I can use because I can sink it into the ground because the stems of the tree are already bark, or just the tree. Like the leaves start high up so I can sink it in. So there's probably one tree that I can use, and then the enrichment piece. If there wasn't that like sort of weird feeder thing clipped onto it, I would much rather use the enrichment piece as a tree decoration than an actual enrichment piece. So yeah, the Echidna habitat, the trees that are in there are actually those enrichment pieces. Because I want small trees. And we actually have gone like smaller trees, like we've gotten some saplings from some trees. Not all of them, but for some of them. So Yeah, I'm probably going to be using those enrichment pieces because they are small and I wanted an eucalyptus sapling and that's the only one that can sort of work for that. But anyway, that's going to actually be it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, don't worry about me about like the YouTube tangent that I went on about like my upload schedule. I'm completely fine and it's just like giving you a little bit of like an insight into what's going into my brain. But anyway, so that's going to be it. Hope you enjoyed the video and I wish you all a wonderful day. Bye bye.